Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and we have some really interesting, pretty big news coming from JP Finley today, man. Commander's sale will be over soon. Exact quote, will be over soon. Also, it's been reported that Amazon founder Jeff Bezos did not submit a bid for the Commanders. And also, anybody that submitted a bid, none of the bids exceeded $6.3 billion. We got to dive into why that happened, maybe why Jeff Bezos hasn't put in a bid and what that means for the Commanders. And then most importantly, the fact that it's been reported from multiple sources that the Commander sale will be over soon. How soon are we talking? Because I was hearing something about March, I was hearing something about April, I was hearing something May at the latest, and then hearing that Jeff Bezos didn't put in a bid, I was like, uh-oh, I'm pretty sure it's still gonna get sold, but maybe that delays things, or maybe it doesn't get sold this year type of thing. But now I'm hearing news that it may get sold soon. What is soon? January? February? Before free agency? In time to still get a new head coach to replace Ron Rivera if you wanted to? So we got to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Like I keep saying, I have so much content I need to come out with, but every time I'm about to work on a video and I have so many video ideas, mock drafts, other things I need to report on, some breaking news like this happens and now I got to push everything else back and talk about this. So man, make sure I stay tuned because I have infinite content. I have enough ideas and content that I need to talk about, mock drafts, film session, all of that, to where I really need to be doing even more than the 2 videos a day that I'm doing. So make sure y'all stay tuned, man. Make sure y'all pull up every Sunday for the call-in show live stream where y'all call in and give your opinions. We just had it earlier today. Watched the playoff games together and talked everything Commanders, Sam Howell, Scott Turner, all of that type of stuff. Make sure y'all pull up next weekend as well. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, the first thing I saw was reported by AJ Perez. Exact tweet says, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos hasn't submitted a formal bid for the Washington Commanders, sources tell FOS. Minus Bezos, none of the half-dozen bids ahead of last month's first-round deadline exceeded $6.3 billion. That's crazy in itself. And so we're going to dive into that and everything, of course. But before we dive into that, JP Finley came out and tweeted, no Bezos doesn't mean no sale. So he wanted to emphasize that just because Bezos is not involved yet doesn't mean he won't be involved at any point. And even if he's completely out, it doesn't mean that the Commanders won't go, because Jeff Bezos may not have been the #1 candidate anyway. Either way, no Bezos doesn't mean no sale. Let's go ahead and get that through. And then also he went on to say, in fact, I heard today from a source close to the situation that it will be over soon. So I'm really excited about that. I'm very intrigued by that. What do you mean by soon? Like I talked about in the intro, is that February? Is that even January? Or is that March? Is that before free agency? That's huge, man, because if that's before free agency, again, that opens up the possibility that if you want to move on from Ron Rivera and move on from Martin Mayhew and all of the guys and basically clean house, you can do that before you hit your first free agency. As of right now, I was thinking that we wouldn't get a new owner until like April or May, and by then free agency definitely would have happened and the draft more than likely would have happened. So at that point, you might as well leave Rivera in with Martin Mayhew and all of those guys for at least another year. But if it happens before free agency, maybe there's a decent head coach candidate out there if you want to replace Rivera. Again, this is if you want to replace Rivera. I think Rivera deserves at least one more year to prove himself, especially with a better offensive coordinator and Sam Howell as his quarterback, but we'll see how that goes. But that's really interesting news. And then JP Finley also tweeted out, not only was I told Bezos didn't submit a bid, I've also had people tell me the Snyder family has absolutely no interest in selling to Bezos. So there's just that petty beef. Again, remember, Bezos owns the Washington Times, and they're usually the ones that's writing up those articles about Dan Snyder investigating and snooping into all of his bad business that should be exposed. Bezos is not wrong for that, but Dan Snyder hates him for it. So Bezos sounds like he was out of the question anyway. And I've talked about that before in videos months ago, that even though Bezos wants to become a buyer and he has the most money out of any candidate, he's gonna have to bring in somebody else that Dan Snyder will be willing to sell to, because he wouldn't probably sell to Bezos anyway. And it's not like Dan Snyder is technically being forced to sell. He at least seems like has the option to choose who he wants to sell to, even though he does have to sell the team at some point. But yeah, man, those are all really interesting things, man. This is a crazy scenario. All all of this information that I just told y'all about, I'm still confused about as well. But to dive into the article about Jeff Bezos has yet to officially bid on the Washington Commanders, to really dive into what they're talking about there by AJ Perez, going straight from the article, Jeff Bezos didn't place a bid for the Washington Commanders ahead of last month's deadline, sources with knowledge of the process told Front Office Sports. But that doesn't mean the Amazon founder is out of the running for embattled Dan Snyder's franchise. Minus Bezos, none of the half dozen bids submitted, so there were a half a dozen bids, 6 of them, so that's news in itself, before the first round deadline on December 23rd for the Commanders exceeded $6.3 billion. There are 2 reasons why. Number 1, Bezos didn't come strong with a huge number, setting up a situation where he'd initiate an early bidding war. So basically, if Bezos would have came out with his bigger offer, more than likely exceeding $6.3 billion, then everybody else would have been forced to bid higher than that to compete for the ownership. So because Bezos didn't enter, now the bids are a little bit lower. He would have ran the market up. Just like with Daron Payne right now, if we allow other defensive tackles to get paid before he does, Daron Payne's going to end up asking for more money. Similar thing. And then the other main reason that AJ Perez states says, the same sources said some other billionaires interested in the Commanders have realized that getting public financing for a new stadium could be difficult. A dome stadium like the one Snyder had plans to build was estimated at $3 billion alone, just the stadium alone. So say you bid for the team and you go above 6.3 billion. Say you bid 7 billion, you buy it for 7 billion, you're gonna need another 3 to get the stadium together, the new stadium. So that's $10 billion you need to have ready, and that's another reason why the bids aren't as high as people thought, because you do have to factor in the fact that you're gonna need around $3 billion just for the stadium alone. Perez also went on to say FOS could not confirm who submitted bids to Bank of America, which is handling the sales process on Snyder's behalf, like I reported months ago. There's also been no official word from Snyder that he intends to sell at least a controlling stake in the franchise, although many around the league expect such. So there's no official word that Dan Snyder plans on selling enough of the franchise for somebody else to have complete control over it, or at least majority of control. But again, a lot of people close to the situation assume that he will and expect that he will. Then quote, "We are not commenting on anything related to a potential transaction," unquote, a Commander spokesperson told FOS. Messages left with Bank of America and a Bezos attorney would not return. Some estimates after Snyder announced in November that the team would explore a franchise sale could reach $8 billion, which would easily set a worldwide sales record for any sports franchise ever, no matter the sport. Snyder led a purchase of the Commanders for $800 million in 1999. The league approved a debt waiver in March 2021 that allowed Snyder to finance a large chunk of the $900 million needed to buy out 3 co-owners who owned 40% of the team to give him the entire team. Now Snyder remains under investigation by a second outside NFL investigation led by former SEC chief Mary Jo White. There's no timetable on when that probe will conclude, but I mean, of course it would be nice for that information to come out, but I don't think it's going to influence whether or not he sells the team or how soon he will. I mean, according to JP Finley, he's going to sell the team soon, and it sounds like it's pretty much a done deal. It's just a matter of when, and that soon thing is very interesting. But yeah, man, Jeff Bezos not placing the bid definitely seems to slow things down a little bit, or at the very least not get the ball rolling as quickly as they expected. But either way, again, it's reported that the sale should happen soon even without Jeff Bezos, so there must be at least one person that placed the bid that's really interested. Of course, I did the report on Todd Boehly and why he could and could not, pros and cons of him being an owner, a good owner for the Commanders. So he's one person that's assumed to be interested. No word again on who exactly placed bids, but I would assume that he did, because there was a strong source that said he is making a strong push to get the Commanders, and I'm assuming that if he's that interested, he was one of the people that placed the bid before December 23rd. Now we pretty much just got to figure out who the other 5 bids placed on the Commanders organization came from, because it's not Jeff Bezos, and we already knocked out Todd Boehly as being one of the more likely candidates. Who are the other 5? I'm really intrigued by that. And then going back to JP Finlay, where we're getting a lot of our information from anyway, somebody added him on Twitter and said, if you had 100 hypothetical chips, who would you say we should be keeping an eye on as far as becoming an owner for the Commanders, at least a strong candidate type of thing? And his answer was Josh Harris. So of course now I had to go look up who is Josh Harris. Apparently he's an American private equity investor and philanthropist who co-founded Apollo Global Management, one of the world's largest alternative investment firms. Harris is the principal owner and managing partner of the New Jersey Devils, of the National Hockey League, and the Philadelphia 76ers of the National Basketball Association, and is also the general partner in Crystal Palace of the English Premier League. And his estimated net worth is around $7.05 billion. I don't know if that's enough. I guess it would have to be him along with some other people to go in together to get it, because again, you're gonna need about $7 billion to even buy the team, and then you're gonna need another $3 billion for the stadium. Maybe he can get some investors to do it. Maybe without Dan Snyder involved, maybe Maryland, DC, or Virginia are willing to be able to put their own money in as like a state or a city to help with the stadium. But as of right now, that's really interesting. Again, if I'm just looking at Josh Harris's credentials, it doesn't necessarily scream strongest candidate to buy the Commanders. But again, JP Finley is in the know with all of this stuff, all of the reports that we're getting and stuff like that that's coming from him. And the fact that somebody asked him, if you had to put your money on it, who would you probably guess right now? He said Josh Harris. So I think we need to take that seriously. But that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And of course, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you scroll on the screen right now. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it. Definitely get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about Josh Harris. How do you feel about Jeff Bezos? How do you feel about this whole situation? I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.